Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about the angle addition postulate. Complementary angles are two angles who have a sum of 90 degrees. Each angle is called the complement of the other. Here we have 60 degrees and 30 degrees. Their sum is 90. These angles happen to be adjacent, meaning they are next to each other, but that doesn't have to be the case for them to be complementary. On the right here, we have 67 degrees and 23 degrees. These angles are not adjacent, but they are still complementary because their sum is 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, on the other hand, are going to have a sum of 180 degrees. So here I have a 137 degree angle and a 43 degree angle. Together they make a straight line, which has a sum of 180 degrees. Each angle is called the supplement of the other angle. Name all the pairs of complementary and supplementary angles pictured here. A and B have a sum of 90 degrees, therefore they are complementary. And A and C have a sum of 180 degrees, therefore those two angles are supplementary. A linear pair are two angles that together form a line. Here you can see angle 1 and angle 2 would be considered a linear pair. If two angles form a linear pair, they are supplementary. A protractor is a geometric ruler that is a half circle with coordinates from 0 degrees to 180 degrees. When measuring an angle, do you think it matters what size the protractor is? For example, if you have a really tiny angle, would you want a really tiny protractor? Or if you had a really large angle, would you need a larger protractor? What do you think? The answer is no. The size of the protractor does not matter for measuring angles. For example, look at your paper. At the corner of your paper, you can see a right angle. This angle would measure 90 degrees. Now look at the corner of the wall, where the two walls meet. This would also be 90 degrees. Obviously, the wall is much larger than your paper, but it's irrelevant. The degree measure is the same. Therefore, we could use the same measuring device to measure both the wall and your paper. The protractor postulate states that if BA and BD were opposite rays, then the measure of BC would fall somewhere between 0 and 180. What is the measure of angle BEC? Now, you can subtract the measure of angle AEB from the measure of angle AEC to find your result. This idea is similar to the ideas we discussed in the previous lesson when we subtracted two numbers on a number line to find the distance between those 2 points. It appears that the measure of angle AEB is about 47 degrees, and the measure of AEC is 105 degrees. So we can subtract these two values and then take the absolute value to get our final result of 58 degrees. Take a moment and find the measure of each of the following angles: the measure of angle BAC, the measure of angle CAD, and the measure of angle BAD. The measure of angle BAC is 65 degrees. The measure of angle CAD is 50 degrees. And the measure of angle BAD is 115 degrees. A right angle is an angle who has a measure of 90 degrees. An acute angle is an angle whose measure is less than 90 degrees. And an obtuse angle is an angle whose measure is greater than 90 but less than 180 degrees. Straight angles are angles with a measure of 180 degrees. And a reflex angle is an angle with a measure greater than 180 degrees. Below is an example illustrating the ideas of the angle addition postulate. Here we have an angle BCA, and we also have a ray that's creating two other angles. Ray BD divides this angle into two other angles. This indicates that the measure of ABD plus the measure of DBC will be equal to the measure of ABC. Now let's use the angle addition postulate to solve the following example. If the measure of angle XWZ is equal to 127 degrees, and we also have two other angles that are labeled here, we have XWY, which is 32 degrees, And because the symbol here indicates that this is congruent to this angle, we also know that angle VWZ is also 32 degrees. So now use that information and try to find the measure of angle YWV. By using the angle addition postulate, we know that the measure of angle XWY plus the measure of angle YWV plus the measure of VWZ is going to be equal to the measure of angle XWZ. I substituted in my known values, so I know that XWY is 32 degrees, and I also know that VWZ is 32 degrees, and XWZ is 127 degrees. Now if I get the measure of angle YWV by itself, you can see that my final result is 63 degrees. Please take a moment to review this slide as it discusses the idea of congruent segments and congruent angles. Let's try some examples together. Find the measure of angle BCW if the measure of angle BCD is 157 degrees, the measure of angle BCW is equal to 6x minus 2, and the measure of WCD is equal to 62x plus 3. First, label your diagram and then set up an equation. Here I took my two smaller angles and set them equal to the large angle, and now I just have to use algebra to isolate the variable. Here I combine like terms, then I subtract 1 from both sides. That gives me 78x equals 156. Divide and get x is equal to 2. But now we have to make sure that I plug it into the corresponding angle. When I plug it in, I get 30 degrees. Let's try another example. Find the measure of angle FGH if the measure of angle FGM is 11x plus 1, the measure of angle FGH is 15x minus 7, and the measure of angle MGH is 28 degrees. As you can see, first I labeled my diagram and then set up an equation that corresponds to it. Now I just have to solve for x. After solving for x, I have to make sure that I plug it back in to the corresponding value that they're asking for. So here I know that I'm looking for the measure of angle FGH, so I need to plug in my value for x into 15x minus 7. This gives us a final result of 128 degrees. Find the measure of angle JUT. If the measure of angle VUT is 93 degrees, the measure of angle JUT is 2x plus 5, and the measure of VUJ is 6x plus 16. Find the measure of angle ABC. If the measure of angle JBC is 84 degrees, the measure of angle ABJ is 5x minus 5, and the measure of angle ABC is 13x plus 15. Find the measure of angle ABZ. If the measure of angle ABZ is 8 plus 2x, the measure of angle ABC is 180 degrees, and the measure of angle ZBC is 26x plus 4. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a wonderful day.